Mangwanani Mwalelepo Vukenjani Krikwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show, bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Bedi and Glenora Shipura.
Omukase.
Damuka Kanomukao.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what that means.
I could have said it now, but you know, I just thought like let's just ease into it.
You see, we are building this relationship. Pretty soon I'll know a bit of Shona and you'll know some Herero.
Yeah, and all it took was 3 years of seeing each other every day.
Yeah, just 3 years. Moving into what you can expect in today's broadcast. Kenya to scrape visas for all African visitors by year end. SIM card registration in January will involve facial recognition technology, and a record 6.9 million internally displaced in DR Congo. We'll also be talking to Ari Hohad in South Africa, who'll be filling us in on the latest news over there. Do stay tuned for these and more news on Africa Good Morning.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our top stories, Kenyan President William Ruto has announced the impending removal of visa requirements for all African visitors by the end of this year. Speaking at an international conference, President Ruto emphasized the need to eliminate visa restrictions among African nations, stating that such restrictions are counterproductive. The African Union has long pursued the goal of facilitating visa-free travel within the continent. Although there have been regional agreements and bilateral arrangements, progress towards completely unrestricted travel has been slow. As of 2022, only Seychelles, the Gambia, and Benin permit entry to all African citizens without a visa as per AU-backed report. However, according to the Africa's Visas Openness Index, which measures the accessibility of African countries to visitors from other African nations, many countries have been making strides in simplifying entry procedures and reducing restrictions for certain nations. And I think it's also worth mentioning that Namibia is currently in talks with Zambia to facilitate a similar deal that they have with Botswana, which allows the citizens of both countries to cross over with just their IDs.
That is definitely a step in the right direction.
Got to love it.
Well, moving on to our next story, the number of internally displaced people within the Democratic Republic of Congo has reached a record 6.9 million due to escalating violence, the United Nations said on Monday. The conflict between Movement du 23 Mars rebels and militias loyal to DR Congo's government has intensified in the eastern province of North Kivu since early October, particularly north of the provincial capital, Goma. The UN's International Organization for Migration said many people who have fled their homes but stayed within the DRC's borders desperately needed help to meet their basic needs. The IOM is intensifying its efforts to address the complex and persistent crisis in the DRC as the number of internally displaced people climbs to 6.9 million people across the country.
Now, the National Communications Institute of Mozambique, Regulatory Authority for the Postal and Telecommunications Service, intends in January 2024 to introduce new facial recognition and fingerprint technology with a view to increasing levels of security for mobile phone subscribers. According to the Director of Communications and Statistics Services at INCM, Masingwe Apala, the innovation will provide compliance with the new regulation approved this year by the government, which aims, among others, to reduce crime abetted by falsely registered telephone numbers. According to the same source, the initiative comes at a time when the INCM is preparing to start the new registration of phone subscribers to take place through Mozambican territory in the same period. We're going to have an innovation starting next year. Registration will now be done through facial recognition, as we have to know who is who, Apala said.
A now sacked Ghanaian government minister has admitted that he accepted a cash gift of $40,000 in order not to offend a wealthy investor, according to an official report into the incident. Charles Adu-Bohan was dismissed as a minister last November after an investigative journalist caught him on camera appearing to accept the money from someone pretending to be a wealthy sheikh who had expressed an interest in investing $500 million in the continent, including setting up an Islamic bank in Ghana. Ghana's Office of the Special Prosecutor, which looks into alleged corruption and corruption-related activities, launched a 6-month investigation and released its report on Monday. The secret filming by media company Tiger IPI also showed Mr. Adu-Bohan asking for 20% of the intended investment as his cut and a fee of $200,000 for the vice president, the OSP report says. The vice president knew nothing of the arrangement. In his conclusion, Special Prosecutor Kisi Ahabieng said Mr. Adu-Bohan exhibited a lack of sound judgment. His claim that he accepted the cash gift to avoid offending the supposed sheikh lies very thinly.
Certainly. I mean, accepting money to avoid offense. Like, no, give me this money. It will plunder my nation's natural resources. But what I'm really afraid of is offending you.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the matter. Okay. Oh, plus he asked for 20% of the deal.
That's also part of not offending.
All in the name of good manners. All right. Now, a senior Catholic clergyman in South Sudan has revealed that Pope Francis has instructed bishops to give priority to women's leadership in various activities in their dioceses. Archbishop of Juba, Stephen Ameyu Martin Muda, who was elevated to the rank of cardinal by Pope Francis a month ago, returned home on Monday morning from the Vatican. He's one of the 3 African bishops who were elevated to the rank of cardinal by Pope Francis in Rugambwa from Tanzania and Cardinal Stephen Brislin from South Africa. They were among the 21 new cardinals. Addressing a jubilant gathering at St. Teresa's Cathedral in the capital Juba, Cardinal Ameyu said he delayed returning because Pope Francis asked him to take part in a synod discussing the role of the church in evangelization. All right, very interesting. That brings us to the end of our top stories. After the break, are South Africans tired of celebrating their World Cup win? Short answer, no.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
So, of course, South Africans are very, very happy and celebrating the World Cup win. However, I'm sure they all hoped that the public holiday would fall on the Monday after the World Cup. But President Cyril Ramaphosa, the relentless comedian, at least in my respect, put the holiday on 15 December. Like, that's mid-month December. Ari, what's the feeling in South Africa? Good to see you, mate.
Yes, very, very good to talk again. Yes, I think there's everybody's still rejoicing and it's happy. I think it's different to 2019, Ashwin, when we look back to that one, as if everybody thinks that was a bit of a luck. Now they've done it back to back, and what's the lesson that we can learn from that? That's the crowd that met the players at the airport. Lots of support. There'll be a bus going around the country also in a few days' time, going to 4 cities, going to smaller areas as well. That's President Ramaphosa with Siya Kolisi, who's the race captain. But just briefly, what it means for the country, I think it's not just a moment for everybody to drink too much and to celebrate and have a big party and go back to normal on Monday. I think lessons that I've learned around me and that I've also taken from that is being tenacious. I think we've picked up that team is tenacious. And what does it mean for us as South Africans to be tenacious and to grow and make things better and to achieve? We can. And that's what I take from that. Siya Kolisi said, let's take this beyond the rugby field. I love that. Let's take this beyond the rugby field. We can pull together and we can be stronger together. So that's the message. That's their logo as well. So it's positive. And the holiday, public holiday, yes, it's the 15th of December. It's actually the 16th of December is a public holiday anyway, and it's on a Saturday. So I think what they did was just build it around that reconciliation day. It's the day of reconciliation anyway. I don't think there'll be another day like that the next year. I think that will be back to day of reconciliation, the 16th. I think it's a once-off. But it's nice to have that Friday, and the holidays will start a little bit earlier. But country a little bit divided. Briefly, some say the economy cannot handle that. It roughly, just to put it into context, what South Africa lose in VAT and income tax on a day like that, when it's the public holiday on a work day, is about 500 million South African rand just for that. So hopefully it will not have a big impact. But everybody's happy, and we'll take it further.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because, most people weren't going to show up at work on Monday either way, so you might as well have had it then. What I found interesting was just the rising voices in rugby. I was interested when I saw Julius Malema congratulating the Springboks as well as the EFF, and they went on to put out a statement calling the holiday being opportunistic, having it on the 15th, so the rugby fever's got everybody gripped.
Well, moving on to your next story, and I think a company that's on everyone's lips in South Africa, Eskom, remains under massive pressure as it has now posted its biggest financial loss ever. Can you get into this?
Yeah, it's remaining. So I go from the negative or from the positive to the negative, but we'll see it in context again. I think let's embrace this whole thing and try and be part of the answer rather. But the reality, unfortunately, is that there's 23.9 billion rand. That was the negative in the financial year, so to speak, and that's a big number. It's the biggest ever. The forecast for 2023, 2024 similar. So it is lots of work to be done by Minister Ramaphosa there in the picture. It was a lot better since I came back from being in France, but we have load shedding again now. So I think also that the money owed by municipalities is a big issue. It's about 60 billion South African rand. And so municipalities need to pay Eskom, but there was debt relief of about 250 billion South African rand from the Treasury, and that freed up cash for Eskom, and that was important to free up the cash for maintenance of all those big power stations. But the big thing that's the biggest culprit in for the extra cost is diesel, and that's to fire up the open cycle turbines, and that cost 30 billion South African rand just in this financial year. So that is roughly what the loss was. So it's difficult to keep everything going, but hopefully there's an answer. Hopefully Afrikaans sê daar lig in die tunnel, hopefully somewhere.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And of course, South Africa has to overcome that mammoth of a hurdle. And, some people were hilariously saying that there was no load shedding during the World Cup. Yes. Now, I found it to be hilarious and baseless until I looked at your next story, Ari, which is that petrol and diesel prices are going down as from today. Coincidentally, when the Springboks will be touring South Africa on a bus. I need answers.
It seems like it all aligned. The Springboks got it right to align everything to work for them somehow. And yes, reality is it's going to be a lot cheaper, but it's still very expensive as it is. So we took the shots through the year. It's going down. The petrol is going down R1.78 to the litre. It will be 23.90 for 95 petrol, and then diesel going down 85 cents. So it's going to be 24.40 a litre, and then also paraffin going down 97 cents as well. So hopefully that will help the consumer. Obviously, there's a big component of the taxi industry in South Africa as well, and also transport, etc. That will hopefully be a little bit better. I don't know if the taxi industry will readjust their price. Maybe they will be the beneficiary of that. But at least for the man in the street to go on holiday, it will be a little bit more cheaper to drive around. But it is still very expensive. Obviously, the rand battling against the dollar, and we're also just waiting to see what the price of crude oil is every month. So that is, we're kind of sitting ducks in this.
Well, in your next story, I struggle with administrative work, and I'm understanding that most South Africans have fallen behind with the renewal of their car licenses, and ShopRite and Checkers is offering some assistance.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think for them a good marketing process as well, obviously, for them to get exposure. But they're doing a good job. There's 1 million outstanding licenses apparently, and it grew quite a bit. And it's important for the public holidays. It's important to be roadworthy and to be in correct standing to be on the road. I think what happened maybe was that I picked up the last few months that there's been lots of notifications about they adding your fines. If you had a fine that you didn't pay, they're adding it to that. And when you get to that counter, they're going to add it, and you first need to pay that. So maybe that was for people a little bit of a difficult one to swallow. But the important thing is you can at least go to ShopRite and their money market. You can pay it there. I think just to avoid the long queues as well. It's like at Natas as well in Namibia. It's the same in South Africa. You have long queues, and that's just reality. And so sometimes that's a bit of a schlep. But they do offer that, and they offer it at a good fair price as well. So everybody to be roadworthy leading up to December and hopefully have a well-deserved holiday. But yes, in closing, we're all excited about the Springboks, but I'm definitely going to try and take it beyond the rugby field. And let's hope that the cricket can do the same. It's going to be difficult to keep the load shedding open for those games because it's a lot longer than a rugby game. But let's hope there's a success in the cricket as well. And maybe there's a double World Cup win on the way. So that would be extremely nice for South Africa.
Yes. And speaking of taking it beyond the rugby, some South Africans have said that they look forward to naming their newborn babies names like Fafa Zutando.
Wow.
Taken from Faf du Plessis. And, that's how you archive history. Thank you, Ari, for bringing us the news stories from South Africa.
Yes, indeed. Happy to talk about that, and a great day for everyone. We celebrate in Southern Africa for all the victories.
All right.
And a great day we shall have. Let's take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa.
All right, two words you normally won't see aligned together are UNESCO and fashion, but it makes sense if you just listen to me. According to a UNESCO report released during the Lagos Fashion Week, Africa's fashion industry is rapidly growing to meet local and international demand, but it's also lacking the adequate investment to achieve its full potential. Currently valued at $15.5 billion worth of exports annually, the earnings from the continent's fashion industry could triple over a decade with the right investment and infrastructure, according to the United Nations cultural body. It's people now coming to realize that there's a lot of treasure in culture and particularly in the fashion industry, says fashion designer Ejiro Amos Tafiri.
That's definitely a step in the right direction. Well, moving on into our next story, sanctions and suspension of international finance and aid have left the economy of Niger, on one of the world's poorest countries, hanging by a thread 3 months after a July 26th military coup. The European Union, a key partner for the Sahel nation, had allocated 503 million euros to improve governance, education and sustainable growth for Niamey from 2021 to 2024. But the EU, France and other partners halted their budget support immediately after the overthrow of elected President Mohamed Bazoum.
All right, we're going to head to the economic indicators just before Ari Hohad returns with the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with soccer news first. Prestigious Ballon d'Or rewards that was given best men's and women's player and also the best team for the year, and it's the men's winner is Lionel Messi, and he won the title or the award for the 8th time, and he plays for Argentina and also for Inter Miami. He's a forward and a striker, and it was also his influence on the World Cup winning team of Argentina winning the World Cup in Qatar last year that made a big difference. He's 36 years old. It's his 8th time winning the title. Then the women's Ballon d'Or that went to Aitana Bonmati. She's from Spain. She was quite influential in Spain winning the World Cup for women, and then also she plays in the midfield also for Barcelona, and Barcelona winning the Champions League. So great achievement by the 25-year-old of Spain. The team of the year went to Manchester City, and Manchester City, they won the treble this year, and the treble is very difficult to achieve, only the second time ever that it was achieved. That is for English soccer club winning the FA Cup, also the English Premier League, and also winning the Champions League, and so Manchester City winning that title. Continuing international sports news with cricket news, it's the World Cup 50-over World Cup continuing in India, and a good result for Afghanistan. Afghanistan beat Sri Lanka by 7 wickets, and with the win they stay in touch with the top 4. The top 4 teams out of the 10 competing will go through to the semi-finals. Afghanistan currently in 5th position. They have 3 games left, 3 tough games for them though. They do play the Netherlands, that they might be the favourites, but then they also need to beat South Africa and Australia to qualify for the top 4. At the moment it's India leading with 12 points after 6 games, and South Africa's got 10 points after 6 games as well. New Zealand and Australia currently also in the top 4. And concluding today's international sports news, it's tennis news. One of the elite tournaments being played on the women's calendar, that's the WTA Finals. That's being played at Cancun in Mexico. So it's the 8 best players according to the world rankings that qualify for the season-ending tournament. And it is the 8 players that will be in 2 groups of 4. And the 2 top players in each group after the round-robin games will go through to semi-finals. What happened in Group A so far was Aryna Sabalenka. She had an easy victory over Maria Sakkari by 6-love and 6-1. And then also it was Jessica Pegula with a good win. She's from the United States. She beat Elena Rybakina by 7-5 and 6-2. In Group B, it was also quite competitive. It's a competitive group, rather, with especially Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek. And it is Coco Gauff. She's the US Open winner. She's just 19 years old. She had a good start. She beat Ons Jabeur of Tunisia quite convincingly by 6-love and 6-1. And then also in Group B, it is Iga Swiatek that beat Marketa Vondrousova. Vondrousova is the current Wimbledon champion, and it's Iga Swiatek winning that match by 7-6 and 6-love. And to conclude today's international sports news, more tennis news. It is the Paris Masters on the ATP Men's Tour. Carlos Alcaraz, one of the top player in the world, second seeded in the world, also playing in this tournament. But one of the results I can mention is Andy Murray losing to Alex de Minaur, and he broke his racket quite a few times in the match. He lost 7-6, 4-6 and 7-5, and he said after the game that he's losing his interest and his joy in playing tennis. That is Andy Murray of Great Britain. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
That brings us to the end of our broadcast from the ever lovely Glenora Shipura and Ashwin Berry Surajahanaka.